I got something really cool for y'all today. My goal in this video is to see how loud you can get for 300 bucks. A few weeks ago, I posted some builds, and one of those builds was a $300 budget build off of Amazon using a SKAR enclosure, a SKAR woofer, and a Legis audio amplifier. Now, I've already reviewed the box and the amplifier on my channel, and we'll talk about those in more detail a little bit later on. But for now, let's crack open this SKAR subwoofer and see what it's all about. I don't do a lot of unboxings, and that's mostly because I'm really impatient. And every time I get something in, I crack it open immediately to look at it and don't always grab the camera. So I have had this open before. So let's take a look inside this box, check out this woofer here. All right, first impression of the SKAR subwoofer. It's got a huge surround on it, almost like it's kind of made huge on purpose to just kind of make it appear to be beefier and kind of more of a badass than it really is. It does have push terminals, which I think is a good thing for a budget subwoofer. Push terminals are handy to have. I like that they put a little shrink wrap right here. Got some tinsel leads there, magnet, one big slug. Looks like a steel stamped basket. I don't know if you can see this or not, but there is a SKAR logo in it. Spider, it's kind of red. It is a paper cone. Pretty straightforward, not terribly heavy. Got some vents here. Got a vent on the back as well. So this is about a $90 subwoofer on Amazon. SKAR has a good reputation for being a cheap brand that does well for the price point. That's why we went with the SKAR subwoofer. Is it any good or not? I really don't know. First time I've tried one of their things. Let's talk about the enclosure now. We'll talk more about the enclosure a little bit later, but for now, let's just take a quick peek at it. It's got a slanted back. It's been sitting in my garage for a while, and the cat has clawed the hell out of the carpet. So it looks kind of rough, a lot of cat hair on it, but that won't change the way it sounds. Inside the box, got some polyfill, and it came pre-wired, which I think is awesome. I wish more enclosures would come pre-wired. It's got a curved port. Now let's drop this sub in and see what's going on. Now the next thing that I noticed here is that it seems like this box was really made for one of their bigger woofers. You can see there's a lot of slop, and that is not a good thing, because as if the woofer isn't centered perfectly, you end up missing the edge of the enclosure. Always smart to pre-drill your screw holes, because MDF splits. All right, woofer is in the box. All that's left to do is wire it up to the amplifier. I've already got the amplifier in the truck ready to roll. And since it's raining outside, I'm gonna pull the truck in real quick so I don't get wet. I'll be right back. You're probably looking at this going, what are all these loose wires in here, man? This is sloppy. Well, I've got the fuse pulled from this power wire and everything's taped off, so that's not dangerous. And I know you're also thinking, why aren't you using some spade connectors here? Why don't you be less sloppy? Well, this is not a permanent setup. I'm just doing this to test things. So I'm constantly pulling things in and out. Now that I got the subwoofer in, I'm going to do something now that I've never done before. I'm going to use this guy right here. This is an SPL Lab mini bass meter. I just got this in the other day. I've never tried it, and I've never metered anything that I've ever built before. So this is exciting for me, and I want to say thank you to all of my patrons, because the only reason I'm able to afford this kind of test equipment is because of the support that I get from my patrons. And as always, I want to say an additional thank you to my $25 patrons, Dylan, Bo, Baba, Bam Bam, David T, and Stereo Lab LLC. So we're just gonna stick this up on the dash and crank it up and see how it goes. So for this shot, I'm just playing some test tones. I had the microphone turned off because these microphones can't handle anything quite like this. All right, so that is not what I expected. In fact, I expected that I wouldn't be able to hit the minimum threshold for this thing right here, which is 120 decibels, 129 dB for $300. So an inexpensive SKAR 12-inch subwoofer, an inexpensive SKAR 12-inch subwoofer enclosure, $65 amp on Amazon, a decent set of wires, and off we go. Now I've been riding around for about a week enjoying this subwoofer to give you a general listening impression, so here is that listening impression. I'm not particularly impressed. I don't think it sounds that great. But it is a $300 subwoofer, and in my opinion, you'll have a hard time getting louder than this for under $300. Now that's $300 for the subwoofer, the enclosure, the amp, and the wire, a full package. And yes, there are people who got louder when they did the $150 SPL challenge, but they were playing a little different game than I'm playing here. That just covered the subwoofers or the subwoofers plus the amp. Those individuals were not restricted in their enclosure. Me, I'm sticking with prefab enclosures because I'm operating under the assumption that if you're on a budget that tight, that you probably don't have the tools you need in order to make your own enclosure. Would I recommend this setup? If you've only got 300 bucks, this is fine. So what I think I'm gonna do is save up my money and spend a little bit more and see how loud I can get for 400 or maybe 500 bucks. And I'm putting all these videos in a playlist. If you want to see my budget build playlist series, check out this video right here. I'm the DIY audio guy. Hit this button to subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next adventure.